And some folks. Now, Lizbeth, Daddy, the Reverend Aronson, I hope you're taking notes. You're going to need them later. Anyway, he had him a brother lived up in the Panhandle in a little place called Nazareth, Texas. It's just south of Amarillo. You hang a right at the Palo Duro Canyon, head southwest as the crow flies, and you can't miss it. Anyway, his brother had him a sweet young daughter named Mary Virginia. Now, Mary was the prettiest thing you ever laid eyes on. Her folks called her Virgie for reasons any parent might well understand. Mary Virginia was in love with and engaged to a handsome young carpenter named Joe Dodge Davidson. Now, Joe was also quite smitten with Mary, and one day he decided to take pen to paper to help explain to his intended all the things that was stirring in his heart.
My dearest, sweetest Mary, every time I try to tell you how much you mean to me, darling, I get all tongue-tied, sugar lump. So I wrote this here letter to tell you that beyond a doubt, you are the best horse in the barn.
Son, the best horse in the barn? The woman wants poetry, not ponies. You'd best give that another go. Anyway, you get the picture. Now, Mary Virginia, who was Lizbeth's father's brother's daughter, they were cousins. Anyway, Mary had a hard time sleeping one night. She was tossing and turning, fretting about God knows what, when suddenly a thought occurs to her. Hey, God knows what. So she jumps out of bed and commences to praying. And it wasn't long before, you guessed it, the angel Gabriel again.
Mary, I got some news for you that's going to fill you with joy. You're God's girl. Now don't be afraid. No one's going to hurt you. God has chosen you to bring the baby into the world.
But I've never been with a man before.
Of course you haven't. That's one of the reasons you were chosen. But this ain't just any baby. This is God's baby, come to save the world. The Holy Spirit's going to take care of all those details, now don't you worry. Oh, and Mary, God's kind of partial to the name Jesus.
A baby. God's baby. Wait till I tell Joe! Oh no! I don't know exactly what I'll say to Joe. He's gonna have to know before too long. But only God can strengthen him and help him see that to marry me would not be wrong. 'Cause I've been blessed by an angel, and I'll never be the same. Just a plain and simple country girl. I didn't know he knew my name. I've been blessed by an angel. Someday soon the world will see, and they'll be blessed by my angel for all eternity.
I'd spend a lifetime searching high and low for someone sweeter than my Mary. I may never know.
It's a privilege he's given is an awesome one to be the one and only mother created by her son. Blessed by an angel,
Blessed by an
and I'll never
angel,
be the same.
and I'll never be the same.
Just a plain, simple country girl.
Pretty little country
I didn't
girl.
know he knew my name.
Didn't
Joe, you'd better sit down. There's something I got to tell you.
Well, what is it, Mary?
Guess what?
Hold it. We'd show you Joe's initial response to the good news, but we don't want to lose our PG rating around here. No, sir, he was not exactly a happy camper. But he settled down later that night when the angel Gabriel showed up again, confirming everything that Mary had told him. He said, "Stop being so contrary and marry Mary." I love it when they do that. I sound just like James Earl Jones, don't I? Anyway, Joe decided that he didn't care what the town folk thought. He loved Mary and he trusted her. So they got hitched. And they agreed to call the child Jesus, which didn't go down easy with the kinfolk, since no one on either side of the family had ever named a child after an expletive before. You'll catch up. Anyway, it wasn't long before Mary was great with child, if you know what I mean. And so Joe and Mary had to take a trip to the state capitol in Austin. Now, it was an arduous journey, to be certain, especially given Mary's condition. But they didn't much have a say in the matter, since it was the closest doctor on Joe's HMO plan. I can see you've been there before. Well, they had just arrived in town when they discovered that this was the weekend that the Longhorns was playing the Aggies. And there wasn't a room to be had within a 30-mile radius of town. So they kept going to a little town southwest of there called Wimberley. Now, they had just pulled up to Miss Edna Mae Mitchell's bed and breakfast when suddenly Mary's eyes practically popped out of her head, and she proceeded to rip a bald spot in the middle of Joe's chest. So he went into the office to see if he could get some help.
Where's the nearest doctor?
Now, folks, they were smack dab in the middle of the Blanco River Valley. Now, for those who don't know it, that's someplace between nowhere and you done passed it. And they were almost 20 miles away from the nearest hospital in San Marcos. Well, it was getting dark, and since there were no vacancies, and even more importantly, because Mary was having another series of contractions, Joe and Miss Edna broke into an old barn out back. Now, they cleared out a corner of the room. Then they busted open a big old bale of hay and spread that out. Then he took some horse blankets and laid it over that and found an old space heater to get some heat going. Meanwhile, Mary's contractions were getting closer together and a good deal more intense. So Miss Edna, who had done some midwifing in her youth, was giving Mary some pointers on breathing and such. They tried to make the young mama as comfortable as possible given the circumstances. And before long, the little baby Jesus was born into the world. They wrapped him in a pair of long johns and laid him in an old Fredericksburg peach crate.